Welcome to another episode of Casually Catrice. I have a very special guest with me today, Mr. Tyrus Thomas. He is a former NBA player, an assistant basketball coach, a life coach. Definitely glad to have him here with us. So Tyrus, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. So definitely, I want to take it back from the start, okay? How did you get started with basketball?
Honestly, I think it was because I had to go to I was raised by my grandmother, my mom, and my uncles. They were like, my big brothers. So wherever, especially the youngest one, we're 10 years apart. And until he went to college, wherever he went, I went. Like it was, if he wanted to go, I had to go. So I think that him being at Sports Academy at the time, like I'm like 3 or 4 years old, him playing AAU ball, just like me being at the gym all day, I just developed a passion, a love for the game of basketball.
I love that. And then, of course, we know you as the defensive player, rebounding, dunks, and just always bringing the energy. Like, how did you would say that started to come about when you were learning the game?
I say it to people now. It's like again, always being with older people. When I did get to that age, about I don't know what age I was, but just being able to get on the court, it was steps. Like first off, they gotta need somebody, right? So if they need somebody, I'm lucky enough to get on. But you got one job, and that's to play defense. You can't dribble, you can't shoot, you can't do nothing. You just got to come out here and be a body that's playing hard, right? And so to get a shot, you got to get a defensive steal. Like literally, you got to get a fast break. Or then you got to, you might get one shot per game, but you better make it or you're not going to get another shot. So that's how you learn what shots you could take and what shots, and so it's like, I think I credit me and my passion for the game, the way I played, just from always being around older people. It was like, the way I played throughout, high school, college, professional, is like, that was how I had to play to get on the court at Dufrock, to get on the court at Sports Academy, to be able to go to the dungeon with the older guys and get on the court when my uncle would come home, in the summers. Like, that's how I had to play. So that just became a part of, who I was.
I got that. So when did you start to feel like, okay, I got something, like I am good at this and this is possibly something I would like to pursue long term?
For me, my objective was always, and I guess like the guys that I saw that were good, for some reason they never really made it. Like, and it was usually just like being from Baton Rouge. We had a lot of great talent. I don't even consider myself in the top third of the talent that I saw come through Baton Rouge before me. I just had a lot of things go the right way. I was able to, stay on the right path. But for me, it just was like, use basketball to get a better situation, right? So use basketball to go, like my uncle, he left to go to school in '94. And he never lived back here, so, and it wasn't even about getting away, but it was just being able to see something different, and for me at the time, with what I had seen, basketball was like the only way outside of, doing things that I didn't want to do. So, and the NBA, that literally like the last month of the season, like, I never really paid attention to, possibly being a top draft pick or, even just leaving school early until like, really like the tournament. Because that was the first time I actually had to do interviews and people were asking me about it and I was watching TV. So like, before then, it wasn't even really a thing to me.
Got you. Okay, and you actually went ahead into some of the questions that I'm going to be asking you. So with LSU, you did attend there after you left from McKinley. How was that recruiting process to get to LSU? Was that always a choice for you, or?
Nah, LSU initially asked me to walk on. And so I committed to the University of Miami. Perry Clark was the coach at the time. And he called me like the day before signing day, and he got fired like the day before signing day. And so Virginia Tech, it was like I made my decision out of University of Miami and Virginia Tech, and Seth Greenberg was the coach at the time. Both of those schools recruited me hard, and but once I committed to University of Miami, Seth Greenberg gave their last scholarship away. So when I called him, he was like, "Man, I can't. You know, it ain't really nothing I could do." And so it was something happened with one of the recruits that was supposed to come to LSU, and I wound up getting his scholarship. You know, at the time, that was what I had left. You know, so.
Got it. Well, I'm just gonna bank on it was meant for you to be there, okay? Because the run you, Garrett, Temple, Glenn Big Baby Davis made in the NCAA, I mean, that was dope. And I just want to know, like, that time period, what would you say you remember doing that? 'Cause I know it's like after Katrina and everything of that nature. So, you know, it was something great for the city to be able to experience.
I think that was for us, we still talk about it. Like, it was that time, and what we did was more like, we feel like it, you know, like people always talk about it and feel like they're gonna always talk about it because it was like not just the what we did, but it was the when we did it, you know. And at that time you had, you know, that was probably one of the most, in this 100 years or so, the most catastrophic events in Louisiana history. And so at that time we're able to, you know, give people, even if it's just for 2-3 hours out the day, you know, give them an opportunity to have something to be proud of. You know, I can just remember traveling and like everywhere we would go on the road, we would find somebody like that was displaced. Like I remember being in West Virginia, and I walked out on the hall and I asked one of the housekeepers for some towels, and when she started talking, I'm just like, all I could ask her was, "How you get up here?" And she was like, "We got on a bus and this where it stopped." Right? And so it's like we knew like we were playing for more than just us. You know what I'm saying? Like it just was one of those, again, I think it was that time period, the when it happened, you know. The what was good because, I mean, it was the Final Four. It wasn't a national championship, but the when, it always gonna connect people back to a feeling that's just as good as, you know, for us at that time, it was just something that we needed. So, you know, that was, I think just being that proud spot was, I never really take that for granted. You know, I realize the older I get, the more I travel, I realize that I'm connected to a lot of Louisiana people from those times, and that sense of peace and happiness and joy that was provided to them, you know, during those moments. So it's definitely not anything that I take for granted, and that's one of the more proud accomplishments I have.
I feel that. Okay, and after that season, you actually went ahead and entered into the draft and became like a top 5 pick. How did you know that was the right time for you to do that?
You know, I mean, like you just, at the time I was projected to be anywhere from 1 to 10, and you know, like that's a life-changing situation. You know, I actually cried. Like, I didn't want to leave school. I didn't even really feel ready, for real, but it's just like, shit, I've been winging it my whole life. It was just another thing that you had to wing, you know what I'm saying? It was like, all right, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, so business-wise, though, I mean, when you projected to be top pick, is not something that you could, you know, I wasn't willing to come back to school to jeopardize that. You know, my family situation didn't give me the courage to jeopardize losing that. So, yeah, that's how I decided.
I feel that. And so you went on where you were drafted by the Trailblazers, but really started to play with Chicago. What was that transition like from collegiate to the NBA that you remember?
Mine was rough. I ain't gonna say it was for me. It was rough. Especially like most teams that have lottery picks, they're usually like bad teams. But the Bulls, they had like some trades from New York, so like they made the playoffs the year before. So like they bringing their core back, they bringing veterans in, like you know what I'm saying. And whereas most lottery picks, you on like kind of bad teams to where you gonna play, they're gonna allow you to mess up, you're gonna be able to grow, and you know what I'm saying. Well, whereas I had a shorter leash. And like for me it was hard for me to process it, like being a top pick, and it's like I ain't getting to play, I ain't getting to, and I became a victim of comparison, watching other guys just get to play, get to mess up, and even to the point I remember asking to go to the D League. I was like, y'all could just send me to Des Moines, like I was ready to go to the D League or Sioux Falls, wherever it was that Scott used to keep saying. Like they would threaten me, like we're gonna send you to you gonna. And so it got to the point it was like if I'm not gonna play, y'all might as well let me go hoop. Like I just want to hoop, And so like for mentally, my transition was the hardest part was like understanding that this was no longer like just the love of the game. Like this is a business. Everything is, so. Here I am, I'm just want to hoop. I don't care where y'all send me at this point. I go, they had a gym. I actually used to go to the gym and try to slide and pick up games at the Joy of the Game. They had a gym like right across the street from the facility. And like, it was just like, I just wanted to hoop. I just wanted to hoop. And so like for me, transitioning from just hooping, having fun to the business, it was tough.
I feel that. And so when you were traded to Charlotte, would you say, you had that better understanding then? Like, how was your time with that organization?
Oh, no, I still wasn't grasping the concept yet. I was still young.
Gotcha.
Like, so even though that was like my fourth year, I was 23. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was still young. So, like, that one hit me because I never forget. I broke my arm. Come back, we playing probably like a month or so. We in Minnesota. We got film, do film, and like we was finna go to the gym. Like for dudes who wanted to get shots, we ain't have a shoot around. But if you wanted to get shots, you could go to the gym. So we had just played the night before in Chicago, so we flew to Minnesota. So one of the dudes, I never forget, Pete Mize. He was one of the guys that I was closest with. That's Jamarcus Russell's godfather. So like, as soon as I got traded there, before I could leave New York, J-Rock calling me like, man, you gonna be out there? So like so when I get downstairs to go get some shots, Pete like, yo, TT, yeah, man, get your stuff, man. You gotta catch the plane in a little bit. But like he played all the time, so like, and this round trade deadline time, so like this is like my fourth year, I think. And it's my fourth year, so like I'm used to now the jokes and everything that go round trade deadline. Sometimes it be timid, sometimes you joke it off, like you kind of just waiting to see what's gonna happen to this, to the deadline hit. And so I'm like, man, whatever, like I'm thinking, man, we just had film. And I was starting. They told me I was starting, so I'm like, man, I get on the plane from Minnesota that day with the one bag I had and flew to Charlotte. Played in Charlotte that night. That night, got on a plane, flew to Milwaukee. I had to have a car come get me from Milwaukee to drive me back to Chicago just so I can get me 2 bins full of clothes to drive back to Milwaukee to put on the plane to go back to Charlotte with.
So yeah, that's how I found out I was getting traded.
That's crazy. And so your time with them, like, how would you describe it with their organization?
That's where I really learned the business of basketball. Like, that's when I really grasped it and I realized I couldn't fight it and it wasn't much, like, I'm grateful, I'm blessed, but I also understand, the business of basketball. And for me, as a person that really just prefer to hoop over anything, especially staying in Charlotte, like, how that went, I could have got other offers, more money, and to start, but I stayed in Charlotte because when I got traded there, Larry Brown was the coach. I was coming off the bench. It was Raymond Felton's point. We had Stat, Steve Jackson, Gerald Wallace, Boris Diaw, Tyson Chandler. Yeah, me, Larry Hughes, DJ Augustine, Theo Ratliff coming off the bench. And like, I think it was like probably like 10 or so games out the playoffs. I ain't sure. They was already starting to make a climb when they made the trade. Make the trade, boom. We make the playoffs. Now we get swept by Orlando. That was the team that played in the finals that year against the Lakers. But in my mind, like, shit, they just made a trade. Like, they just traded 3 dudes in. They brought me in, Boog in, Theo in. I'm like, they finna, and then they had to re-sign Ray and Tyson. So me being green to the business and just wanting to hoop and win, like, when I get my offer, I never forget, it was New Jersey. The Nets were still in New Jersey at the time. And me being green and just being so honest, I'm telling my agent, like, man, you could tell them don't even offer because I'm going to stay here. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, shit, in my mind, if I take this offer, the first offer they give me, they got money. Now you about to bring Ray back, you about to bring T.Y. back. Shit, I don't got no problem being a 6-man if we about to roll, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, before I get to camp, ain't nobody left. Ain't nobody left there but me, Jack, G-Dub, and DJ, and Boris. By the end of that year, so then we get into the season. Around November-ish, Larry Brown called me in the office crying. He like, man, I just hate this for you, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, man, what you talking about? Like, he like, he let me know that he was stepping down. He was like, I ain't about to be whatever, he said what he said, right? And like, and he let me know he was stepping down because like he knew the only reason I came back. He knew the money. He knew everything. He knew like, look, man, I just want to win. I want to play. I want to win, And so, so he leave. Boom. So we go through the season. We going through. It get to the trade deadline. I never forget it. Me, Jack, G-Dub. We sitting in the locker room. It's like, I think the deadline might have been like, 3 o'clock. We was in Charlotte. It might have been 2 o'clock, something like that. So they got like an hour. We just sitting in there. Never GM walk in, he like, man, y'all go home. We good. Ain't nobody doing nothing, right? So like, me, Jack, G-Dub, we'll go play cards most of the day. We go to G-Dub house, play cards, whatever. So, we trying to see what the day finna unfold like. So when he say we good, everybody, we like, man, I'm gonna holler at you. I tell Jack, like, man, I'm gonna hit you. Me and Jack stay around the corner from each other. So I'm like, hey, when I get to the crib, get straight, I'm gonna holler at you. We gonna see what, you go to your house, G-Dub house, whatever. Man, before I could make it home, G-Dub traded. Right? So now it's just like, it just was a bad vibe. So It was just weird. It was weird. So now we come to the summer. I never forget. We get to the summer. I don't know what I was doing in Houston, but on my way to the airport to fly to Houston, I called Jack. I'm like, man, look, I'm finna come to Houston. What you got going on? He stay in Port Arthur. His people in Port Arthur. He like, man, I'm gonna come get you from the airport. Jack come get me from the airport. We talking about the season. We gonna work out. You know, we talking about, you know, like what it looked like. I kid you not. As we pull into the driveway of Jack Mama house, his phone ring. One of his partners like, man, you traded. Like, he like, nah. He called his on my son. Like, I never forget. We pulling into the driveway, and like that's when we find. And so it's like now, they don't bring DJ. DJ don't resign. Raymond ain't there. Tyson ain't come back. All that from the first. So now it's like 2.5 years in, and it's like the team I signed to. Now we ain't, you know, and so for me it just wasn't. It wasn't never. And I'm a person that I thrive with consistency. You know, I wasn't never good with inconsistent situations. I was kind of like that person. Let me figure out what's going on. I'm gonna find my space and I'm gonna do my part. You know, and so Charlotte just was so. It was wild. It was interesting.
It sounds like it.
So yeah, you know, like, and so, but in Charlotte. Rest in peace, Paul Silas, man, my man. He said some things that really let me know that it was a business and it took the fight out of me. You know, and it was kind of like, you know, yeah, it took the fight out of me. It was kind of just like, you know, regardless of what I come in here and do, I ain't about to play right now. They got another agenda. They got, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that was wild. That was wild for me. I didn't know how to handle that.
Yeah, no, I get that. And the fact that they told y'all to go home, you have nothing to worry about, that's just the business. That's the business. And so after your time ended with them, like, what was the transition after that? Because I know I did see that even, you know, the serious surgery that you did have to undergo and all of that.
Yeah, so I got amnesty, basically. So basically they cut me for whatever reasons. But for my last 2 seasons, with the strength coach and the trainer of the team, I was rehabbing my shoulder. Like, I was losing strength and like muscle mass on my right arm. And so, you know, I'm doing different, whatever they telling me to do, you know. At some points, you know, their rebuttal was that I wasn't doing it, so that's why they wasn't seeing any improvement, right? So cool, whatever. But so after I was amnesty in 2013, that's when I was like, I couldn't really. I was like, I'm gonna figure out what's going on. So coming to find out, I had a cyst compressing my spinal cord, which was causing atrophy on my right side. You know, so even like that, more than the atrophy, it was like that knocked wind out of me, because I'm like, man, for 2 years y'all been having me doing shit with my shoulder, and it's like, that's not even the problem. Like, nobody, like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But you know, so I did that, wound up having the surgery in 2014. Played a little bit after that. I played in the D League a little bit. Did a 10-day with Memphis. And after that, I went to Germany for a few, like 10 months, 9 to 10 months. And after that, though, I kind of mentally checked out of the game. It ain't really fulfilled me no more, in the sense of like the love of playing it, just getting up to go hoop. It wasn't a thing for me no more. So, you know what I'm saying? I ain't having fun with it. I'm done with it. You know, so that's kind of how that happened.
I feel that. And so I saw that, of course, after that, then, you know, they did lead to you announcing your retirement, things of that nature. So after life, after basketball, what did that transition look like for you?
For me, it was wild. A lot of self-reflecting. I had to figure out who I was outside of basketball. You know, I started playing basketball at 4, and wasn't until 2000, and I'm not gonna count my red shirt year because I was still on the team. So from 4 to 30 was the first time I wasn't on a team. So now I gotta figure out who I am outside of a team. You know, now it's the first time I'm not playing basketball, so I gotta figure out who I am outside of basketball. It's the first time that, you know, my job is not to just come out here and be physical, like, you know. So from there I wound up self-committing to a mental hospital. And in that time I was able to just really recollect myself. And like just get a clear picture of, like you say, like the what's next, who am I, what do I, you know, and that just led me into like life coach, professional coach, the mental health sector, you know, being able to connect to people that struggle and suffer with, you know, things that I do, and, you know, bring awareness to different, whatever it is, situations, resources, making those things accessible and available. Normalizing those conversations, creating spaces for those conversations to be normalized and comfortable. You know, I was able to see myself, and then I was able to see myself in damn near everybody I look at. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm still human, so I still have human reactions, but for the most part, I have more grace now, in the sense of like I struggle with, and it's just like I said, like I struggle with being picked on or feeling like somebody messing with me, right? Like as a kid, that was the ultimate sin. I remember I got my ass whooped for letting somebody pick on me. Right, and so like I also understand that's a trauma in the Black community because I ain't the only one. But you know, like this weekend, all the way up into today, it's like these last, what's today, Wednesday? So Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday. I just counted that wrong. Well, nah, that's 6 days. It's been a fast week. Mm-hmm. Like I've been processing a situation, and it's like I had to tell myself, like, I get to decide how I feel about that situation, how I was taught to feel about that situation, right? I feel disrespected in that situation because I was taught that situation. I was taught that that's disrespectful. Right? I feel like I want to do something or something has to be done because I was taught something has to be done. You can't let nobody do that, right? Mm-hmm. But I really had to process it and you know, like, it's like I get to decide what stuff mean to me. You know, and like even being in those spaces, like especially, you know, like we hear people always talk about like, oh, we got to get the bag, we got to break generational curses. It's not financial at all. You can't break generational curses with money. The generational curses in the mentality, right? Like, so it's like, if I continue to act a certain way or react a certain way, it don't matter how much money I made, I'm still cursed with that behavior. I'm still cursed with that spirit. I'm still cursed with that mentality. You know what I'm saying? Which ultimately is gonna be passed down to my son, right? So I ain't break shit if I You get what I'm saying? Like, it don't matter how much money I got. It don't matter how, you know what I'm saying? It don't matter about no business or what I know at that point. Like, and so, like, the mentalities is what's going to change, you know what I'm saying? The way we live and our happiness and the ultimate, you know, that fulfillment that everybody looking for, you know. I mean, and I could just say that because the peak of my financial career, I was like the most miserable. You know what I'm saying? So like, and I come from nothing, so I remember the days that I just wish I had this and everything would be, nah, that ain't it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like being able to connect to people and continue to evolve with myself and then create those spaces and opportunities for others to do the same. And it's like breaking the stigma, especially in the black community with black men, you know, making it okay to say, man, I don't got no problem with you. I just don't want you to antagonize me. I just don't want you to talk to me like that. I just don't want you, you know. And them being able to understand that, you know what, you right, cool. Like, it's no, like those things have to be normalized, you know what I'm saying? And I know that it's a mindset more than just, because everybody don't think like that, you know? Those are clusters of, you know, and I had to realize that, like, how I feel, people around me, not everybody around me feel and understand what I mean, or understand, you know what I'm saying? So, and just wanting to do that, you know, but I'm in a space to where that's like kind of my, every day I wake up, I'm trying to be the best version of me, right? But I also know that it's not an easy thing to do, it ain't a glorified thing to do, it ain't a common thing to do, so the more we talk about it, the more somebody talks about it, the more somebody is vulnerable enough to, you know, talk about being right and being wrong and could admit they wrong and still move on.
I respect that. And so with your different platforms that you have, your podcast, Damned If I Know, as well as with the mental wellness activity guidebook you just published, would you say like those, everything you just mentioned is everything that you're trying to instill in people like that with your platforms?
Yeah, so my platform, Orange Cloud Network, and emphasis on the network is more of like, in a perfect world, in about 2 years, maybe 5, whenever, I don't know, however long it take. But with the work put in, Orange Cloud Network is, I don't know what, the shade room of everything positive, right? It's like just, again, normalizing, sharing the positive like we do the negative, you know, and being happy about it. Yeah, like just normalizing the things that we do that we know we need, but it ain't really the thing to do, you know, making it normal, or creating spaces where it's normalized.
Sure. And even you being an assistant basketball coach at Liberty Magnet, like what led you there?
Honestly, Brandon White, that's me and his sister, best friends, good friends with him, and in 2016, I just needed to be close to ball, like in my transition, and it's just 7 years later, still there helping out.
Yeah. No, and I brought that up because I know that you are an inspiration to them, and I know when I first met you, just like how you were checking in with them, even they was leaving from practice and stuff like that, and ensuring that they are staying on the right track.
That's what it turns out, you know, like that mentor. But I think that, and this is everywhere I go. I just me authentic. I'm authentic, and when I say that, is that you gonna get me every time I show up. Right now, what me looks like, I don't know, but it's gonna be me, right? Like I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I wear, you know what I'm saying? But I'm genuine. I give you the shirt off my back. I don't want a problem. And I don't want no problems, right?
Right.
But if you want a problem, I'm probably gonna tell you no problem, right? But I don't want no problems. And so like, especially with kids, like they sense that, you know, I'm direct, I'm firm, you know, I'm gonna hold them accountable, but I also, you know, I just naturally come with and they say that energy, you know, show my intellectual side, they say energy cannot be created or destroyed, just merely transferred from one object to the next. So when I bring that energy in the room, they feel it. You know what I'm saying? Even when it's not the best of energy, they still able to get the love out of it. You know, and so me being in the school system the last 2 years, but even just growing up knowing that everybody wasn't getting that from home. You know what I'm saying? Like knowing that sometimes the only people checking on the kids is the people that they see throughout the day at school. You know, and I've kind of just always been like that, and understand, you know, I've always been able to understand a little bit more than my peers, and as a kid, like being able to process and compartmentalize certain things. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I've always been able to like meet people where they at. You know, I tell people all the time, like, they'll tell you that Jesus turned water into wine, but they don't tell you who he turned it into wine for. Right? And he did that because he was talking to the drunks. And I gotta meet you where you at. Right? And so it's unrealistic. It's like when I went to Germany, man, I couldn't read nothing. I couldn't write. I had to wait for 2 days for Holger to get back in town. He was the translator. But now, like, they had to meet me where I was.
Right, for sure.
You know, except for my American teammates, I can't do nothing with y'all right now. You know, but it's like that. Like we can't. It's unrealistic. You know, and so I always keep that to the forefront of my mind. I mean, that's just the way I live life. Period. Is knowing that you have to meet people where they are. I just think because I was I always feel like I'm misunderstood still, and I was younger. So misunderstood because people couldn't meet me where I was, if that makes sense, or refused to meet me where I was. So again, just understanding that, I think that's what I give off, and they appreciate that.
For sure. And so just in case we have some young men watching that want to play in the NBA, what advice would you give to them?
I hate to be the devil's advocate. But be realistic, one, right? Today's era, I'm seeing a lot of people dedicate and put so much time into sport that they closing the doors on other things that they may be good at. They're trying to force themselves into a box. Without knowing what else is out there. I was a no-star. I probably was like a 2-star coming out of high school, right? My chances were slimmer than everybody else's who got drafted my year because they were all Americans and stuff. But I also didn't, once I got to college, you know, I was like trying to be the best I could be. I still wasn't locked in on NBA, but it's like I'm going to class, but I'm in the gym. I'm trying to, for me, it was just, I got to prove these mofos that I shouldn't be red shirting. You know what I'm saying? Like that was my, but for the most part, it's like even with the professional, it's like you gotta have it, right? And if you don't have it, then you gotta be realistic, right? And that's okay, right? So you gotta know that, hey, I probably done capped out athletically, but I love the game. I could be a coach. You know what I'm saying? I could be a trainer. I could be an analyst. I could be one of the other thousands of things that go into making basketball happen, whose longevity is more than 3 years. You know, and that's one thing that I try to push, especially to my black kids, and my black and brown kids, the young girls, is because the opportunity in sport is so grand, and our people, I mean, we're starting to turn that corner, but our people don't even understand and know how deep those opportunities go. You know, and a lot of things are skills that we already good at. We already have, you know, it's just applied in a different way towards different things, but it's all part of making an operation happen. You know, it's just like, even with the kids now, I think at Liberty we do a good job of trying to expose the kids to different sectors of, you know, sport and just not sport, but also just the workforce, right? So like the young ladies that do our social media and the young men that do our videography and photography, I think they do a great job, but, you know, it's also, we've been getting them to understand, and we've introduced them to people who do that type of stuff on a different level, to where they understand. You know, like, you know, when I was in school, social media wasn't a thing. Not alone a social media manager, a content creator, right? So not just the YouTubers or you creating your own content, but now we're in a world where I don't care if you know what type of clouds in the air. Do you know how these algorithms work, right? Can you create eye-catching content? Can you know what I'm saying? Can you create me recyclable content? Can you work this database? Can you field phone calls? Can you send out, like, these are the things that are necessary for the world to work now, you know? And so, even if you talk about sport, like, that's what sport is now. How much can you know, I'm watching kids, unfortunately, get recruited off of their social media pages. But when they understand how many more opportunities you have in something.
Love that. Okay. And so, last question. What more can we expect from Tyrus Thomas?
I don't even know.
And the Lord use you.
Yeah, I just be moving.
Yeah.
I just be moving.
That's all right. Well, I can already tell, and I'm already claiming, I know the guy has even more work for you to do. So I'm looking forward
I ain't
to
doubting
following.
that. I just don't know what it is.
Oh, no, I know. But no, I'm just saying, you know, speaking of positivity, faith, all those grand things, yeah. You're going to definitely continue to be a difference maker in this world. So I love to hear it. Thank you so much, Tyrus. I have enjoyed you. And you guys, please stay tuned for the next episode of Casually Catrice. Have a good one.